Rectangles and ellipses are special forms of polygons in AutoCAD. Rectangles are fairly straightforward, where ellipses can be a bit tricky. But there are still a lot of things and a lot of ways that you can draw rectangles. Rectangles work a lot like the polygon command, except you're stuck with the criteria of a rectangle, only 4 sides. You get 2 parallel sets of sides that are equal. You get to pick 2 points and opposite sides of the rectangle to create your shape. So if we come to the ribbon and we can find the rectangle command here, and you can kind of get an idea of how you're going to pick it, your first point and then your second point. It's very straightforward and simple enough. That's your rectangle. And then once you select it, it's just because you have a lot more options to it than that. If you start the rectangle command, which by the way, you can just type REC on the command line, or the full word rectangle. Now you have a lot of different options down here. For elevation, fillet, thickness, and width. Some of those aren't available in AutoCAD LT. But if we pick our first point, we get another set of options: area, dimensions, and rotation. So your first choices will affect your second choices. But as with the line command, you can tell it how big you want your rectangle to be. If I type in 40, the horizontal distance of my rectangle will be 40 units. If I press the tab key and type in 30, now my vertical length will be 30 units. And there you go. And then of course you can always grip edit when you're done. When you start the rectangle command, you have some different options. Chamfer, elevation, fillet, we kind of mentioned these before. The chamfer and fillet will work very similarly. A chamfer will automatically chamfer the corners. So let's tell it 4 units by 4 units. Now whenever we draw our rectangle, you can see the corners will be clipped. And there you go. And this is still a polyline. So if we do the rectangle command again, those settings are still set into AutoCAD. Now to turn those off, we'll have to define a chamfer of 0 units. Or you can even make them to be different. I can tell it 2 units and then 8 units. And you'll get a long clipped chamfer. As you can see, doesn't do it the same way. It starts and then kind of goes around. Now the fillet command works the same way, only it puts a round corner. Your other options, elevation, which is not available in AutoCAD LT, will draw a rectangle at a certain elevation. So let's say 40. Now it doesn't look any different, but when I go to rotate my view, you can see it's up higher. And you can't do this in AutoCAD LT. This is only a feature in regular AutoCAD. But that's one thing you can do. Another option is in the thickness. And again, as you can see, this is just a 3D shape. It's 5 units tall or thick. Again, not available in AutoCAD LT. And then the last option, the width. We'll give it a width of 5. Now this is an option that's available in AutoCAD LT. That makes the thickness of the line, the global width, just like a regular polyline of 5 units. Now it's also still set to be thick and at an elevation of 50. Whenever you make one of those changes to the settings of the rectangle command, you have to make sure to set them back until, of course, you close AutoCAD or the file and then reopen it. Then it will be reset to the default settings. Now, we saw some other options. Once you start drawing, you have area, dimensions, and rotation. Now, rotation will allow you to draw your rectangle rotated. So you pick your angle by picking a point or typing in the angle you want, and then you draw it in the regular way. And again, you're going to stay that way unless you reset your rotation back to 0 and continue drawing. Now the rectangle command again, with the area, which is kind of interesting. You'd say that you want to have a shape for a swimming pool that is 1,000 units in square units. Press enter. Now, do you want the length or the width? The length will determine the horizontal side, and the width will be the vertical. So let's say length, and let's say we want it to be 200 units in length. It will automatically draw it so that it fits the shape. Let's try that again, but with something that works a little better. We'll go area, and then we'll go 1,000 units. We'll go length again. This time we'll say 20. And there you go. Now you have a rectangle with thickness that has a square footage or square units of 1,000 units. So if you're trying to design a swimming pool or a room for your house and you need it to be a certain square footage and you know you want one length to be a certain length, then it's very easy to get the other length without having to do any math. And then the last option that we'll show here is the dimensions. The dimension option is very similar to when you entered in the lengths and sides earlier. So you'll just be able to type in the lengths that you want, say 30 and then 50, and it locks it in for you. Option is a leftover from before AutoCAD had the dynamic input, where it was very easy to type in your length and width. So you probably won't ever use that, but I wanted to show it to you in case you were wondering what it was. Now let's clear some of this off. And I want to show you the ellipse command. The ellipse is a little bit different, but it's similar to a circle and an arc in that you have multiple ways to draw them. You can even draw an elliptical arc. An ellipse is essentially an oval, and there are two main ways to draw them. Start the command by just typing in ellipse or EL. The default method is to pick the two horizontal points, meaning the two horizontal axis points. That will define how wide the ellipse will be. Then as you move your crosshairs up or down, you are defining the radius of that vertical arc. And there you go. Now, you can edit it with grips again, changing it, moving it, just like any other object. So let's try that again. So you type in EL, and you want to pick your first point and then your second point. And those are the outer points of the ellipse. And as you can see, you can draw it at several different angles. This one's kind of rotated. Now, the other option is to pick the center first. And then you pick the end, and then you pick the other end. So you can go from side to side or from center to side. That's pretty straightforward. And you can pick the differences here, a center or an arc. The arc, you'll pick 1, 2 points, and then your third point, and then you pick where you want it to start, and then where you want it to finish. And there it is. So let's do that one again. If you come up to the elliptical arc, you're going to create your ellipse. And then you pick where it starts and then where it stops. The elliptical arc works just like the arc command in that it's drawn in a counterclockwise manner. And there you go. So that's the rectangle and that's the ellipse. The rectangle is very simple, but it has a lot of options. The ellipse is a bit tricky because you have to define your axes points or the center point, but it has fewer options available to it. But both are really cool and can make some great designs. In an earlier section, we discussed how AutoCAD uses a Cartesian coordinate system. Sometimes we need to create nodes at specific coordinates, not a line, not an arc, or a circle. These are known as points, and there is a command that you can use that will help you draw a point. Its size doesn't matter because a point, by definition, has no size. It's only a marker or a node for a specific set of coordinates. A good example of using points would be that of a surveyor locating the corners of a piece of property. The nice thing about points is that you can define their display size and you can snap to them. So if somebody gives you a list of points, you can put them in your drawing and draw lines, sort of like playing connect the dots. So let's draw some points. The command is point, or just PO for point. You can also find it in the draw panel of the home tab in the ribbon. And you can draw points or multiple points. So once the command is started, you can enter in the coordinates if you know what they are, or you can just pick on your screen. When finished, just press escape. Now you can see these are tiny dots and they may be difficult for you to see even, but there are some settings that you can use. You can also select them. If you use the erase command, you can select the objects and press enter. Now let's put a point in at a specific coordinate. Start the point command, and then let's zoom down here a little bit. So type in the number 5, the tab key, and the 5. So this will put us at coordinate 5, 5, right here. Points are also three-dimensional, but not in AutoCAD LT, just like every object in AutoCAD. If you leave the third coordinate off, it will be drawn at an elevation of 0. So you can now just start by drawing some points randomly on the screen. And they look a lot like dots right now. And if not, that's okay, we'll get into that. So let's add some more. Let's put one at 6, 10. It went up here. And let's just randomly pick some. When you're done, press escape. Now start the polyline command and type in NOD for your OSNAP, which will be a node point, and click on one of the dots. And keep doing that and just connect your dots together. What you're doing now is just plotting out these points and then connecting them by drawing them together with a polyline. And you can make various shapes, etc. Now your points are still there. They didn't go away. They're just hard to see right now. If you want to change the appearance of your points, you can. You'll have to use some different system variables. One of them is called PD mode. By default, it's set to 0, and this changes the appearance. For changing the size. So if we set in 1, and we zoom in, it's still hard to see. If you type PD size, right now the size is set to 0, and that's part of your problem. If we set it to 1, refresh our screen, it's still not working the way we want. That's because these settings are very hard to use. So let's go to something else called DDP type. Press enter. Now we have something we can use. This is a nice little visual style where you can pick what your point looks like. This is a dot, this is nothing. This is a plus, an X, etc. And now you can pick the size. When you're done, you click OK. And there you go. Points you can use. So if we type in the DDP type again, we can change the point size right here. and now they're a bit smaller. You might have to do a regen, REA, regen all, to visualize it. But there's another setting here, set size in absolute units. That will set the size of it and lock it in. So we have it at 0.5 units. So no matter how far we zoom in or out or what scale the drawing is at, it will be 0.5 units in size. Sometimes though, you will use a viewport and you'll have a different scale for your drawing, and so your 0.5 may be too small. So sometimes you may need it to be set to the relative to screen size. Now that will keep it at 0.5 units, but relative to the size of your screen. It's a percentage, not a unit size. So let me show you. If I click OK, they reduce in size. They're at 0.5% of my screen size. So if my screen here is 100%, it's taking half of one of those percents. Now, if I zoom in, it looks like they're bigger, but when I refresh my screen, again, they're smaller. So they stay the same size regardless of where I'm at. Let's pick a different percentage, one that's easier to see. Let's go kind of big. Go 10%. So now you see how big they are. If I zoom in, they stay that size relative to the screen. Now that's very handy when you have a lot of points over a big area and you're changing the scale of your view. But sometimes you do want to lock them in to one size. It's all going to depend on what you're trying to do with your drawing. Now keep in mind that all of these settings for your points will be reflected throughout your file. You can't have some points that look like an X, some points that look like a box, etc. You can't have some points that are, 10 units and others that are 5. It just doesn't work that way. It's unfortunate, but it is a limitation. However, typically you're only going to want to see the points in one way anyway, hopefully, but they are limited that way. There's a lot you can do with them, and they're easily imported and exported with CSV files and spreadsheet type files, and surveyors use them a lot. So there are a lot of different things you can do with them, and they give you information that's not lines or arcs. One thing to be able to draw lines and circles, but it's another to draw them accurately. That's where O-snaps come into play. O-snaps are one of the key features in AutoCAD that will enable you to draw accurately and precisely. O-snap is short for object snap. They force you to automatically draw from a specific point on an object, or to an object, or draw to an object in a specific way. I just want to make sure that you get an introduction to them here, as well as some other methods of drafting. You're going to use O-snaps everywhere. In every way that you draw, you're going to need them. So you need to learn them. In fact, we've already shown you some of them, like endpoint, midpoint, and center of a circle. We're going to look at them in depth in a later section. But right now, I want to make sure I tell you what they are so that when I try to use them even more throughout the rest of the video, you won't be confused or lost. This way, you'll have a much better understanding of what they are and what they do. O-snaps can be turned off and on, or they can be used individually, or a combination thereof. When you turn them on by pressing the F3 button, that is called the running O-snap, because your O-snaps are always running. If you look down at your status bar, when you toggle the O-snaps on and off, you'll see in the command line that it tells you that O-snaps off, O-snaps on. This button right here will also toggle your O-snaps off or on. Some people will even go so far as to get a 5-button mouse and program one of those extra buttons in the mouse to toggle the F3 button off and on, which turns the O-snaps on and off on the fly. There are times when they get in the way. There are times, though, when you absolutely have to have them. They make drawing so much easier. So pressing the F3 button will toggle them off and on. And once they're on, they'll be running. And when they're running, I mean like your refrigerator is running type of a thing. They're always on. So let's get a quick demonstration. You draw a line, or any other object for that matter, and you draw another line again. Now since my O-snaps are on, my running O-snaps, when I go to draw a line, I can automatically snap to the endpoint of that line. You see that green box? That's an OSNAP glyph. Think hieroglyph. Like ancient Egyptians have hieroglyphics. Well, this glyph will tell you that that is a endpoint. You'll also get a word that says endpoint. That's if your dynamic input is on. If I turn that off by pressing either F12 or clicking on the status bar down here below, I get a little different indication. It's just the green box, and then it says endpoint. So sometimes you may want to turn that off. Now, there are other OSNAPs available to you besides endpoint. If you type in OS on the command line, press enter, this will open up your drafting settings dialog box that you have available to you. Whichever ones are checked on will be the ones that are functioning during your running OSNAPs. You can select everything if you want, or you can turn them all off. Typically for me, the way I use them is I turn everything on except for nearest and parallel. I really like having all of these other OSNAPs on. We'll go over each of them very briefly. This is the endpoint that will snap to the end of an object, like a vertex or vertice on a line. This is the midpoint. It will go to the middle of an object. The center will go to the center point of a circle or arc. A node will go to like a dimension, or a point. Dimensions, we'll talk about them later. They have dimension points, and that's measuring the distance between those 2 points, and that's where the node is. The quadrant will snap to a circle or arc or ellipse or one of those various types of objects, and the quadrant is in the top, the bottom, the left, and the right extreme portions of that circle or arc. The intersection is where 2 objects intersect. An extension will cause a temporary extension of a line or arc so you can continue on its pathway, and then it will take you to some other point. Insertion is if you have a block that has an insertion point, and it will snap right to that point. Perpendicular is very useful. It will bring something, perpendicular to another object. Tangent will draw a tangent line to an arc or a circle. The nearest will pick any point on an object that your crosshairs are nearest to when you click your mouse. That can be very dangerous because you don't know exactly where it's going, but sometimes that's okay. Sometimes you just want to be on the object and you don't really care exactly where it is. So it's useful, but that's why I turn it off, because this will override a lot of things. I'll show you later on. An apparent intersection is where 2 lines would intersect if they continued on, but maybe they've been broken or trimmed or something. And parallel can be difficult to use, but it will make a line, parallel to another object. Now, even though your running OSNAPs are on and you're trying to draw something, endpoint, midpoint, or another endpoint here, you can override this at any time just by typing in the short key command for that snap. For instance, endpoint is END. Press enter. Now, once you type that in though, regardless of what you do, it will always snap to an endpoint, even with your running OSNAPs are on. If you type in the wrong thing, just click somewhere arbitrarily. Your command is still going, but it clears that out. You can always shift and then right click to have a list of all of your OSNAPs here available to you. You can pick the endpoint, midpoint, intersection, etc. Let me show you nearest very quickly. This is what it looks like. It's going to snap here to any point on this line, and it draws it right to the line. So that's the general idea for OSNAPs. We'll talk about them in depth a little bit later on, but we'll really dig down in and deep and show you some tricks that you can use with them. But otherwise, we're going to use them off and on throughout the rest of this video. A drawing in AutoCAD is nothing more than a series of lines and arcs, polygons, some text, and other things. This chapter looked at drawing most of those objects, and other things as well. So let's make a drawing using as many of those items as we can get through. We aren't going to concentrate on creating an accurate drawing here, not a beautiful rendering or anything, but we just want to learn how to draw. So we're going to make a basic set of plans that we're going to give to a landscape architect so that he can go and create his drawings in order to help us landscape our home. we're going to use the tools and commands that we've learned about in this chapter. So let's start a brand new file, use the new command, and it really won't matter for what we're doing what template file you use, but I'm going to use the AUTOCAD.dwt file. So I suggest you use the same one, but ultimately it won't matter. We're not even going to draw to any specific units or anything, we're just going to draw. So in this drawing, again, we're going to create a basic, very simple landscape plan view of our home. We don't have any numbers to go by or anything specific, so I'm just going to provide you with those. First, we're going to draw the outline of our house, and we're going to make it with the rectangle command. A lot of times the landscape architect will have nothing more than just the outline of a house to design around. So start with the rectangle command. You can pick it here in the Home tab, in the Draw panel, on the ribbon, or you can type in rectangle or just REC. Now you can pick any point you want in your file here, it won't matter. Pick a point, and now we're going to try to make this house big enough to live in, I guess. We're not sure what our units are, and in this case it really won't matter for our example. So let's just draw the house at 50 units wide, press the tab key, and then draw it 80 units tall or deep, and press enter. Double click the mouse, and there's your rectangle. You can scroll out a little and get a look at it. Nothing fancy, nothing frilly, just a rectangle that is 50 by 80 units. Now we're going to need to draw our roadway, because we have our building and then we have our road that we're going to need. Now if the UCS icon gets in your way, you can right click on it and go to the UCS icon settings and click on the Show UCS icon at origin, and that will turn it off. That will just get it away from showing it at the origin and will show it in the bottom left hand of your screen. It doesn't change your UCS any, but as you can see as we pan around, it just keeps it there. That way it helps us know which way is X and Y, but it gets out of our way for a little bit, which is fine. Now we need to draw the roadway. Start with the line command. It's in the Home tab on the Draw panel, or you can type in line. Just click somewhere below the house. You can start to draw your line. We'll make it at about 400 units long, but we need to draw it perfectly horizontal. So press your F8 key, turn on your ortho, and type in 400, press enter. Press enter again to cancel the command, and there's our road, or at least part of it. Enough representation for our drawing needs. Now let's put the road in here completely. So we will use a new command that I haven't shown you before, but it's right here in the Modify panel on the Home tab in the ribbon, and it's called Offset. Offset will create a parallel line of another line. We just need to give it a distance. We'll type in 20 units, press enter, select the line, and then as you move your line up and down or above or below your source line or the first line you selected, you'll see that there's a preview given. When I click my left mouse button, that's where that line's going to go. Well, we want it below here, so left click, and there you go. Hit escape to cancel out of the command. So we have the house, we have the roadway. Now we need to be able to get from one to the other. We're going to draw a driveway. So we'll start again with the line command. And the line command, as you're going to see, is one you're going to use very often. Hold down your shift key and O-snap shortcut key window. Find the nearest. It's the nearest O-snap. It's not the one nearest to where you're at. I actually mean literally the nearest O-snap. It's right here. Pick it. And now we're going to be able to start our line right on any of the places we pick from our house. Let's put the garage on the left side here. Left click, and then draw the line. As you see, the perpendicular glyph is on. Our line will be perpendicular to our road, which is what we want. Let's use that offset command again. Type in 12, because we'll make our driveway 12 units wide. Press enter. Select the line, and then offset. And there's our little driveway. Not a big one. You don't like it? That's okay. Let's undo. Use the offset command again. This time, let's type in 20 units. Select the line and left click, and there you go. Press enter. Now let's draw a door. Most homes have a door, and we'll draw it just so that the landscape architect knows where it is. Start your line command again, type in NEA for the nearest OSNAP, or use the shift right click to bring up your shortcut window. Click somewhere on the house here. Let's turn off the ortho command. That's the F8 button. Let's make our doorway. Let's make it 5 units long, then press the tab key, and let's tell it 30 degrees for the angle. Because we want to draw a doorway that's open. Now let's put a little arc in here. A lot of times the doors will be depicted as having a line and then an arc. Use the arc command. We want to use start, center, angle, since we know these three things. Select the command. With our running OSNAP still on, I can automatically snap right to the endpoint of this line. That's the start. Now we need the center. If you're not sure of the order of what to do, just follow the instructions on the command line. This is the center line for our arc, because we're going to draw an arc that starts here at the edge of the door and goes into the building. So pick the endpoint. And now we need to tell it to go to 30 degrees. Now be careful, because drawing to specific degrees can be difficult for AutoCAD to understand exactly what you mean. As I move the mouse around, you can see that degree number changes. If I am way over here and I type in 30, it may do some weird stuff, or it may automatically work. Be careful with your snaps. Be careful with your direction in which you're trying to look at. Remember, the arc comes, it starts, and then it goes in a counterclockwise direction. So if I wanted this arc to start here, come from here, and then go down, I would have to type in negative 30 degrees. So be careful. If you get some weird thing, just erase it. Remember, select it, then hit the delete key, and then do it again. Remember, the last arc command you used will be the one that's up in this main button area. But we use the start, center, angle, because we have the start point, we have the center point, and we knew the angle was 30 degrees. Double click the scroll wheel, and we have a house, we have a driveway, we have a road, and we have a door. So far, so good. One thing we didn't do though, and it was a major mistake, and I apologize, we have not saved our drawing. If AutoCAD were to crash, or you were to lose power, or your computer were to fail, any of those things, right now you wouldn't have any of this work saved anywhere. So come up to the Save button, click Save. Find a place to put it, and I'm going to save it in my Autodesk 360 folder right here. I'm going to call this Chapter 5 project, and I had started one before when I was reviewing for this video. So I'm just going to replace what I had before. You can type in a name, give it whatever name you want, and click Save. Since I already have an older file there, it's saying, hey, there's something there with the same name, and are you sure you want to do this? And I say, yes, I want to replace that old file. If not, click No and give it a different name. File has been saved. I won't lose my work. And since I saved it in the Autodesk 360 cloud, it's saved in the cloud. So my computer could literally blow up and burst into flames right now, and I would not lose my file because it's saved in the cloud. I could access that file, download it from any internet-connected computer anywhere, and that's cool. The next step, we need to put in some other items. We have a door, we have a driveway, a road, and we have our building. Let's make a walkway from our door to our driveway. Start the line command, type in near for nearest, come down here with ortho still on. Let's come down 10 units, type in 10, press enter, and then come across the left here. And let's use the perpendicular OSNAP. If you don't have the perpendicular OSNAP turned on, you can type in PER for perpendicular. Press enter. And there you go. Press enter again. Let's start another line. Type in near. And we'll come down again till it looks good. Well, before we came down at 10. So let's come down to about 15. 15 units, press enter. Then come to the left, type in PER for perpendicular, press enter again. And enter one more time. And now we have a little walkway. So we're really putting this thing together. Now the architect knows, hey, here's a building, they have a little walkway, a door, a driveway, and here's the road. So the architect is going to be able to have a great view of what's going on here. Now we want to tell the architect where to put some of the plants. So we're going to need to create a planting area for him. So let's do that. We're going to insert some points randomly just on the left side of the house along the outline here. So we're going to use the point command, which is right here on the ribbon, the home tab, draw panel, and points. So let's put in about 6 of them or so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can put them where you'd like. So there they are. Well, how's he going to see this? That's not real good. So let's type in the command ddptype. ddp type. Press enter. Now let's change it. Let's change it to this one here. Point size of 5% is okay relative to screen. And there we go. These are where he's going to put some of our plants. Now let's make another planting area altogether here. Say, you know what, I really don't like these. So let's select everything and then hit the delete key. Let's go with the point command again. And this time, you know what, he's the landscape architect, or she in this case, it might be. And so let's just tell him an area in which we want everything to be planted. Okay, we'll pick some points then. Pick here, here. Let's say to tell him to just go around the building. When you're done, press enter and escape. Okay, so we want him to go inside here. I'll tell you what, why don't we make it even easier for him, and let's draw a polyline showing him where to go. So with our node OSnap, we will just connect the dots. Pick our first point, turn off the ortho command if it's on, and let's draw our first line. Okay, now we have our first line drawn. Let's draw another. And let's make it fancy. Press A for arc. Press enter. And this will start drawing arcs. To our points. Because who wants square? Okay, now this is going to be a little crazy here. Probably more crazy than what we want. But that's okay because we can edit this. Select the polyline, click that midpoint, and stretch it out. We're going to smooth things out with these grip edits. And if that's the shape you want, then fantastic, then do it. If not, then you can erase all of these and delete them again, or move them around, or just draw a new shape. Now let's say on the right that we want to create a pool area. That's great, so let's draw an ellipse. The ellipse command is in the home tab on the draw panel, and it's right here. We'll just do a center. Pick a point, turn on your ortho command, type in 10 for the width, and then type in 20 for the height. And that's a nice little pool. Now, let's draw some stepping stones. Let's say we want to have some stepping stones go from our walkway to our pool area. Let's use our polygon command. A lot of times, stepping stones might be 6 sides. So we'll type in 6 for the number of sides, press enter. In this case, an inscribed or circumscribed polygon won't make much of a difference. But let's make them 1 unit. Press enter. So there we go, we have a polygon. Now what are we going to do? I want to show you another command called copy. Select copy. It's here in the modify panel in the home tab on the ribbon. Select an object. That's our polygon. Press enter. Now we need a base point. In this case, it's not going to matter so much, so you can click anywhere. You can even click one of the points on the polygon itself. Turn off ortho by pressing F8, and then just pick where you want it to go. Make a pathway to the pool. When you're finished, press enter. Double click the mouse wheel, and there you go. Now you have a roadway, a house, a driveway, a walkway, a door, a trail of stepping stones to your pool, and a garden area. This is a crude drawing by all means, but it's very basic, and it shows you the types of commands and the tools that you're going to use in AutoCAD all day long. These are the basic things that you need to know in order to make drawings. Later on, we'll show you how to edit this and work with it and make even better drawings. As in most projects, you have to make a mess in order to build something. AutoCAD is the same way. In order to create your designs, we will have to make objects in them that ultimately we don't want. A lot of times those objects come in the form of like a construction line or some sort of drawing aid. Whatever they are, they need to go away. So to do this, we use the erase command. You can find the command in the ribbon right here in the modify panel. In this chapter, you're going to see that we're going to spend a lot of time here in the modify panel. Click the erase button and then select an object or objects that you want to be erased. Press enter and they go away. Now you can start the command first, or you can make your selections first, then start the erase command, and then they go away. You can type in the word erase or just the letter E. Press enter, pick your objects, press enter again, and they go away. If you select your objects first, then start the erase command, then you're done. You're not in the command anymore. I can start my line command and draw something. Now you can also select objects and then hit the delete key. Either of these methods with the erase command or the delete key, they work the same way. They do the same exact thing. Now, what if you accidentally erased something, like the oops command? You can type that in, press enter, and that will bring in the last things that you erased or deleted. That's nice. You say, well, why can't I use the undo command? Well, you can. You can go back, find all of the things you erased, and undo it. But let's say I accidentally delete or erase my pool, and then I do a whole bunch of work, like recreate another building right next to this. And then one over here, etc. Well, I don't want to undo all of my work. I just want to get my pool back. So if I undo everything, this is all going to be gone. I don't want to do that. I can just type in oops, and it brings it back for me. I didn't lose any work, just a minor inconvenience. So that's great. Now sometimes though, when you erase your objects or you're doing some other work, you're zooming in and out and things get messed up on their screen. Your drawing's not really affected, but something's just kind of screwy with your computer. Sometimes, for example, a circle or an arc will get segmented, meaning it won't be a round, smooth curve. It'll be just a series of jagged lines. That happens. Or when I zoom into these points, they're too big. Things like that. Or sometimes when you delete an object, there'll be a screen remnant, meaning your video card on your computer just didn't completely render your screen properly. And that happens. When it does, just type in REA for region all. That will clear it up. We've seen that before when we've, zoomed out and started panning and just can't pan anymore. Type in REA for region all, and it will fix that. It will also re-render your points so that they'll be in the proper size, assuming you've set them up to be a size relative to your screen. So that's the erase. You can select your objects first or after you start the command. You can use the erase command itself, or you can use the delete key on your keyboard, whichever way works best for you.